Buenos días, mi gente de Rochester, y bienvenido a su hora informativa. Mi nombre es Sida Pérez y para mí es un verdadero placer poder estar con ustedes en esta mañana. Su hora informativa es un programa que les trae información importante que esperamos que los inspire a una mejor calidad de vida para usted y su familia. Cubrimos información sobre los campos de salud, educación, empleo, vivienda y muchos otros temas más que nos afectan como persona y como pueblo. Su hora informativa está aquí todos los sábados de 10 a 11 de la mañana y nos alegramos muchísimo de que estén nuevamente con nosotros en el día de hoy. Hoy tengo dos invitadas especiales que le voy a pedir a ellas que se presenten, que nos digan su nombre, cuál es su posición y de qué vamos a estar hablando en el día de hoy y de dónde son originalmente. Y no sé qué quiera empezar. I was just saying that I have two special guests here today. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves, to tell us who they are, right? Who are they representing today and where are they from originally? And I don't know who wants to start.
Gracias por invitarnos. Mi
Sí,
nombre es Lice Córdoba.
uh-huh.
Soy originalmente de Barceloneta, Puerto
Oh,
Rico, pero he
perfecto.
vivido en Rochester casi toda mi vida.
Sí,
Estamos hoy aquí en el programa de Cancer Services Program, el
uh-huh.
programa de cáncer y servicios del Fingerlakes, de
Okay.
la región del Fingerlakes. Y queremos hablar hoy sobre el cáncer
Okay.
colorectal.
Okay. Y dice que trajo tu familia aquí a Rochester.
La oportunidad,
Uh-huh.
la oportunidad de mejorar sus vidas,
Sí,
la
claro.
oportunidad de mejorar su vida para su familia.
Sí, claro. Y casi siempre ese es el historial de las personas, ¿verdad?
Sí.
And how about you?
Yeah, my name is Hannah Farley. I'm the Community Outreach Manager at the Cancer Services Program of the Finger Lakes region. And I lived in a couple different places in New York State. From Wayne County to Chautauqua County. I lived in Rochester for a little while,
Mhm.
and now I'm up in Ontario County.
Okay.
But both my parents are from the Rochester area.
Okay.
Born in Rochester, and
Okay.
yeah.
Where's your family originally from, though?
I know
Do you
that
know?
my grandparents, we're really mixed.
Mhm. Mhm.
I know that my grandparents were from France.
Okay.
They came over during World War II
Okay.
because their home was they lived in the village
Mhm.
in where their home was destroyed.
Mm.
So they came over on I think they called them like Red Cross boats, Red
Mhm.
Cross ships.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then the other half, I'm not really sure where they're
Yeah.
what their
It's
story
good
is.
for you to go back and find out, right? How
Yeah.
how they made it here. And I always like to ask that question because regardless of who our guests are, there's always that common thread of where people came from and why they came here. To Rochester. Obviously, they probably came for a better life, just like she said they came for a better life. Some people come for work, some people come for education, some people follow love. And so it's always interesting to know how people made it here to Rochester and to also know that we have some great people living in Rochester doing some great things. So that's why I always like to ask that question. So it'll be great to find out how
Mm-hmm.
your other half got here. What were their reasons for being here? So, like you guys said, we're going to be talking about cancer and specifically of colon cancer, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So tell us a little bit, what's the cancer service program of the Finger Lakes region? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
Because the Finger Lakes region is a big area that covers a lot. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Lizette, you want me to go first and then
And
are you
you
gonna
you
You
can
can
start in English, and then I'll ask the same question to Lisa in Spanish.
Okay. Yeah. So it is a big region, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
we characterize the Finger Lakes region for the Cancer Services Program as a 6 county region.
Mm.
That includes Monroe, Livingston, Wayne, Ontario, Yates, and Seneca counties. There's a cancer services program in every county, no matter where you live in New York State, whether
Mm-hmm.
you're down in this New York City
Mm-hmm.
or you're over in Erie County. We're everywhere. We're ubiquitous.
Mm-hmm.
But we are a not-for-profit program that pays for breast, cervical, and colorectal cancer
Mm-hmm.
screenings and diagnostic care for people that don't have health insurance
Mm-hmm.
and cannot afford those medical costs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they have to just meet certain age and eligibility guidelines
Mm-hmm.
for the cancer screenings.
Mm-hmm.
We work with around 200 healthcare offices within the region, within our 6 county region, to make sure that no matter where someone lives, whether they're here in Rochester or whether they're living like in Wayne County, or no, regardless of where they live, that they have access to quality health care for their cancer screening needs, and and that's free, that they don't need to pay for it. They don't have health insurance. And we also provide, in addition to like the cancer screenings and diagnostic care, we also provide a lot of like community education. So we're out on the road a lot, talking about cancer screenings, talking about risks and symptoms, and just trying to spread the message that cancer screenings save lives. That I know, Lizette, that you talked with someone a couple weeks ago that they said that you saved their life. That's huge. And so, and we provide case management in addition to this education to make sure that that someone isn't just left standing after their screening, that they know what's going on, that they know their next steps, and they know it in Spanish or in English, and
Right.
they have that.
Yeah. So, la pregunta era, ¿verdad? Los servicios de ustedes, programa de cáncer, en toda la región de los Finger Lakes, que es una región bastante, cubre mucho espacio, ¿verdad? Mucha área. Eso, díganos un poquito sobre eso.
Mayormente el servicio y el programa del cáncer sí cubrimos 6 regiones. Es unas regiones bastante grandes. El programa del cáncer está en cada condado de nuestra región. So no importa donde uno viva, vas a conseguir un Cancer Services Program, un programa de cáncer que te pueda ayudar. Mayormente estamos aquí porque este programa paga por los exámenes y detección y atención de diagnóstico de cáncer de mama, cuello uterino y colorectal para las personas que no tengan seguro médico, pero que también necesitan cumplir con ciertas elegibilidades como edad, ingreso y a dónde viven.
Sí, claro.
Mayormente, sí. Tenemos como 200 proveedores con cual este programa trabaja para poder ayudar a nuestros clientes tener estos exámenes gratuitos.
Claro. So why colon cancer? Why talk about that today?
Yeah, we wanted to talk about colorectal cancer, colon cancer. Sometimes people call it colon or colorectal. And we wanted to talk about it because it is such a common cancer. It's also the second most deadly cancer for men and women in the United States. Despite it's not the second most common cancer for men and women, but it is the second most deadly, just behind lung cancer is currently the most deadly cancer.
Wow.
And I call it a cancer that it's an equal opportunity cancer. It affects just about as many men as it does women. And, of all the hundreds of different kinds of cancer, or over 100 different kinds of cancers that people will get, colorectal cancer is actually one of the cancers that we know how to prevent. And so that's why we find it really important to come into the studio and talk with you about it, to spread this message, because we can actually prevent colorectal cancer, even though it's still so deadly. And also March is Colorectal Cancer Month, Awareness Month. So we're like, well, this is timely.
Yeah, right. Bringing that awareness during the month of March. So, la pregunta era, ¿por qué hablar sobre el cáncer del colon en este momento?
Queremos hablar sobre el cáncer colorectal porque queremos que sepan el impacto que tiene el cáncer colorectal en nuestra comunidad. El cáncer colorectal es un tipo de cáncer que comienza en el colon y en la parte inferior del tracto digestivo. Y de los más de 100 tipos diferentes de cáncer que existen, el cáncer colorectal es la segunda causa principal de muerte por cáncer entre los hombres y las mujeres en el estado de Nueva York. Y es el único cáncer más mortal que este cáncer es el cáncer del pulmón. Es muy importante que nosotros tengamos esta oportunidad de informarle a nuestra comunidad lo importante que estos exámenes son.
Y ella había mencionado que el mes de marzo es el mes de traer conciencia
Sí,
sobre
este es
el...
un mes para nosotros muy importante porque podemos hablar de este
Sí, cáncer en
en
particular. Yeah.
particular. Ujú.
So it kind of struck me that you said that it's the second deadly cancer, besides lung cancer, which we probably need another show just for that one, right?
Ujú.
But why is that? Why is it the second deadly, especially when it's preventable? So why is that?
That's the question of the time. We really I can't say exactly why. I
Mm-hmm.
do know that a lot of people will find reasons not to get screened, and it's actually the screenings themselves that can find the cancer early or can find it before it even begins, like those pre-cancers. It can find it early and it can remove it, or whether if it's like an at-home kit, it'll find it and then they'll go to the doctor's office
Right.
and they'll remove it, or if
Right.
it's a colonoscopy, they'll just remove it when they see it, when possible. Um, a lot of people will find excuses not to get screened, and I think in part that's what makes it so deadly, is just because some people aren't getting the screenings that they need. And I've heard people say, it's uncomfortable, it's embarrassing, they don't want to go through this, they don't want someone to look at their butt or whatever. I like to remind people that GI, gastroenterology doctors, they see many butts a day.
Yeah. It's like a gynecologist, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
part of their job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think a part of the reason why it's so deadly is because people aren't getting the screenings when they need to get them, due to that variety of reasons. And then also, when cancer is found, when colorectal cancer is found in its very earliest stages, but we call it that localized. It's a localized cancer. It hasn't spread out.
It's in one place only.
Yes, it's very treatable. But if when that cancer has spread out, it becomes much harder to treat, and so that the chances of someone surviving that disease is lower. So if people are waiting around to get screened because they think it's uncomfortable or embarrassing, and they're waiting until they have symptoms, until maybe there is colorectal cancer there and it has progressed to past stage 1, their likelihood of surviving the disease is much lower than someone who was diagnosed at an early stage, or it was found before it became cancer.
So la pregunta era, ustedes dijeron que es la segunda muerte más alta de los diferentes tipos de cáncer, los pulmones siendo otra, que quizás otro programa que podemos hacer, ¿verdad? Sobre eso, pero ¿por qué es eso? Especialmente cuando ustedes también dijeron que se puede prevenir.
No podemos contestar eso honestamente, pero pensamos que hay unos cuantos factores. Uno de ellos es simplemente estoy asustado. Otro puede ser no tengo un doctor. Otro puede ser que es muy mayor, no tengo seguro. ¿Quién va a pagar este examen? Y otro es no hablamos de estas cosas. Sí. No, aunque no podamos contestar eso totalmente honestamente, creemos que lo más importante, y vamos a hablar de eso un poquito más adelante, es estos exámenes, hacerse el examen. No es buscar la ayuda, como ciertos programas como nosotros. Buscar esa ayuda para poder tener este examen, para tratar de buscar si hay algo que pues, se puede arreglar, que es tratable. Lo importante es hacerse el examen temprano. Temprano, porque no queremos que las personas esperen por esas causas, porque no estoy hablando de esto, porque no tengo un médico, porque no tengo seguro.
Sí.
Todo eso se puede
Sí.
buscar y se puede ayudar. Pero lo más importante es poder hacerse los exámenes a tiempo y temprano para encontrar si sí hay algo malo, si sí hay un posible que haya un cáncer que se pueda tratar temprano. Porque sí, por eso es que es una enfermedad que se puede tratar si te la encuentras temprano.
Sí. Ella había mencionado que si el cáncer está en una sola lugar, que no se ha expandido para ningún otro lugar, hay más posibilidades de poder sacar ese cáncer y curarlo.
Y tratarlo
Y
y estar
tratarlo,
en
sí,
tratamiento y
sí,
estar pendiente de esa
sí.
localización.
Pero
Sí,
si se
exacto.
riega, el riesgo es más alto ahora de que la persona pueda que muera de ese cáncer.
Exactamente,
Sí,
exactamente.
sí.
Por eso esto es tan importante para nosotros, para
Sí,
poder venir a hablar,
claro.
poder tener la oportunidad que nos
Sí,
están dando aquí para
sí.
educar un poquito más a nuestra
Comunidad,
comunidad.
exacto. Now, you also mentioned something that kind of stuck in my head that you mentioned was that it's an equal opportunity, right? Type of cancer, meaning that it could be anyone from anywhere, no matter what. Is there a difference between maybe Black and Brown communities than other communities when it comes to colon cancer? Like, are the rates higher in those communities?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
they are. If we look at Latino communities,
Mm-hmm.
the rates of rectal cancer in particular are higher
Mm-hmm.
because it's colorectal. It's it's two cancers, but we treat it really as one.
Mm-hmm.
And then in our Black communities, it's much more. Colorectal cancer is much higher.
Mm.
The rates are much higher in our Black communities.
Mm.
A little more in Black men than Black women. But yeah, if you have Black or brown skin, you are at a greater risk for this disease, and you're
Mm.
at a much greater risk of not only getting this disease, but
Mm-hmm.
also passing away from this disease.
Yeah. And I'm assuming that, just knowing the Latino community and also being immersed in African American communities, that a lot of times this happens because they don't want to talk about it. And, oh, it's never going to happen to me. I don't feel anything or, that kind of stuff. So that lack of education often are the ones that brings us to these higher rates compared to other communities.
Yeah, yeah. Whether it's like education or like just the culture around
Yeah.
not wanting to get that checked out,
Yeah.
we see that.
Yeah.
It could also be some part hereditary. Like if your
Mm-hmm.
parents had
Yeah.
it, you're at a greater
Yeah.
risk.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
we don't know.
Yeah. So, algo que ustedes habían mencionado anteriormente era que es una de esas enfermedades de igual de oportunidad para todos, ¿verdad? Que no importa la persona, la edad, su educación, lo que sea, le puede dar este tipo de cáncer. Mi pregunta era, ¿hay unas tasas más altas para las personas afroamericanas y las personas latinas comparado a otras comunidades?
Sí,
Okay.
la tasa es mucho más alta para los latinos y las
Ujú.
personas de color.
Ujú.
Am, mm, Se sabe que las estadísticas enseñan que son más altas.
Sí,
Quizás otra vez es por no entender,
sí,
no hablar,
sí.
no tener lo que mencionamos antes,
Ujú.
como doctores o tener un,
Sí,
ah, un plan para hacerse estos
sí,
exámenes, pero sí la tasa es mucho más alta en
sí.
nuestras comunidades.
Sí, y sé que muchas veces que no quieren hablar sobre esto, ¿verdad? No, a mí no me va a pasar, no, yo estoy bien, no siento nada, esto, lo otro, o son cosas que en sí no se hablan como familia o como comunidad, no hablamos de este tipo de cosas, o la gente no se educa, no saben lo que tienen que hacer.
Correcto.
Sí.
Hemos estado en muchos sitios en la comunidad
Ujú.
y he escuchado,
Ujú.
no, yo no voy a tocar ese
Ujú.
tema, no
Ujú.
me hablen de eso, no, no,
Ujú.
no, no.
Sí,
Am, pero lo más importante otra vez es que nuestra comunidad sepa que tenemos que hablar de ciertas cosas,
sí,
aunque sean
sí,
difíciles,
exacto, exacto.
aunque tengan la palabra cáncer.
Sí, sí,
Tenemos que hablar de estas
sí.
cosas. Estamos en el 2024.
Ujú.
Es hora de hablar
Sí,
y de
claro,
educarnos y de poner en
sí,
acción,
exacto.
tener esto
Sí.
importante.
Y la ciencia ha avanzado
Ujú,
muchísimo, ya no es tan común, ¿verdad? Dicen que cada 5 personas, cada 8 personas que tú conozcas, alguien va a tener cáncer, algún tipo de cáncer. O sea que es algo que estamos tenemos más conocimiento, sabemos más de personas que quizás sufran de algún tipo de cáncer, ¿verdad? Sea de mama, sea de lo que sea. Ya es hora de que nos dejemos con esas cosas de antes, de no hablar sobre estas cosas y tener esas conversaciones honestas con nuestros familiares, con nuestras personas, porque no solamente yo cuidarme a mí, pero mira, ve y hazte este examen, mira, yo fui, me hice este examen, háztelo tú también, o mira, ya llegaste a esta edad, es tiempo de que vayas haciéndote estos exámenes y enseñándole también a nuestros niños, ¿verdad? Según vayan creciendo, hay ciertas cosas como adultos ustedes tienen que hacer para protegerse y cuidarse. Tenemos que empezar esas nuevas generaciones pensando de una manera un poquito más diferente.
Correcto, es muy importante no solamente compartir esta información con tus seres queridos, porque compartiendo esta información posiblemente va a salvar una vida.
Exacto.
Especialmente cuando es temprano y son cosas que se pueden tratar.
Sí, claro. I was just saying, she was sharing what you had said, but one of the things that I was saying was that, she said, it's time for people to start talking and having these conversations, even though it's uncomfortable sometimes and people don't want to talk about cancer, but we have to, right? We have to have those conversations. And I was saying that science had advanced so much nowadays, and I know that they say, you either know 5 to 8 people, one of them is going to have some kind of cancer at some point in your life. So cancer is not as uncommon anymore. I mean, we know more and more people that are suffering from cancer or cancer survivors. And so it's time to let those taboos in the back and not, think about those things and really come up with the times to talk about these things. That if I'm going and doing a screening, that I tell my friends, hey, don't forget to, have that screening as well. Or listen, I know you're at this age, it's time for you to have the screening. But also teaching our kids, right, that as they grow older, there's going to be certain things that they need to do for their own health and well-being. So really having these conversations about these things is really important. Yeah, yeah. So I know that screenings have also come a long way. And I know there's a kit now that people can actually do at home. So tell us about that, because I know that's fairly new, and I know that we helped pass out a bunch of them, and so I was really excited to hear about that. So tell. I mean, they've been around for a while, but there's now some that people can take home and do it at home and that kind of thing. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, there's a couple kits available. So yeah, we used to just have the colonoscopy, right? It was kind of like a joke, like, oh, you're 50, time for your colonoscopy.
Yeah.
Well, now there's more tests available. We have more options now as a healthcare consumer, I guess we could call ourselves. So the kits that we're most familiar with, that our program uses, we call them FIT kits. It stands for fecal immunochemical tests. There's a couple different types of like these at-home kits available, but these FIT tests, what they do is you complete them at home. It's a stool-based test, so I like to say anyone that gets a FIT test delivered to them, or they pick it up at their doctor's office, or we'll mail them out too. But for uninsured folks, put it right in your bathroom. So when you're ready, you go number 2 and you do the test. You just take a tiny little bit of a stool sample from the toilet paper, and you put it in a little bottle and you send it to the lab. And what that FIT test is looking for, it's looking for microscopic blood within the stool.
Something that you will not see with your eye.
Yeah,
but,
you won't see it, you won't smell it. So it's really it's not detectable. So that's why you have to have these tests. And what that means, if there is blood within the stool, right? Because that's what they're mainly looking for, is that blood in the stool. If there's blood in the stool, then it could be a polyp, or it could be a number of things. We don't know. They're not going to be able to know unless you actually get a colonoscopy, that visual test. So if there is blood in the stool, you will you should really go for your colonoscopy. If you're using our program, you're going to talk with Lizette, and Lizette's going to help you set that all up. But if there's no blood in the stool, then you're good for a year. These tests are done every year. As long as you're not symptomatic between the tests, there's no changes, like you're not having any current issues, then you're good for a year. And you wait a year, and then you do the test again.
Yeah. So you can have these done annually, and you don't have to go through the whole other thing.
Exactly. Yeah. No prep.
That's a little more more process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's another thing to point out, right?
Mhm.
A lot of people don't like colonoscopies because of the prep.
Right.
And there's no prep for these at-home
Right.
kits. You just do it.
When you're ready, you do it, and that's
Mhm.
it. You
Yeah,
send it out.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Very easy and convenient, and to be able to do it in your own home. Yeah. So, sé que la ciencia ha avanzado bastante y ahora hay unos kits, ¿verdad? Que las personas pueden conseguir y hacerse la prueba en la privacidad de su hogar. So, háblanos un poquito de eso.
Sí, voy a hablar de los kits
Ujú,
que nuestro programa usa. Y
ujú.
si la ciencia está muy
Avanzando,
avanzada
sí.
en esto. Nosotros, una prueba de detección de cáncer
Ujú,
colorectal puede encontrar células precancerosas en etapas tempranas,
ujú,
antes de que tengan la posibilidad de convertirse en cáncer.
mm,
Ciertos kits caseros también pueden encontrar sangre en las heces, lo que puede ser un signo
mm,
temprano de cáncer colorectal o indicar la presencia de pólipos
ujú,
precancerosos en el tracto digestivo inferior. Um, es muy fácil hacérselo en la prueba en su casa, en la privacidad de su baño.
ujú, ujú.
Es muy fácil, nosotros podemos hablar con las personas para darle exactamente las
Instrucciones,
instrucciones,
sí.
cómo hacerse estos
Sí.
exámenes, si detecta alguna sangre en estos exámenes, ahí es que el caso te pasa donde mí
Sí.
para ayudarle para el siguiente paso, que
Ujú,
sería la colonoscopia.
ujú, ujú,
Estos kits se pueden hacer todos los años
ujú.
para detectar si hay alguna diferencia
Sí,
en el año anterior o si hay algo ahora que se puede detectar.
sí.
Mencionamos pólipos, no todos los pólipos, por favor, no crean que son cancerosos,
Sí.
no todo es canceroso,
Ujú,
pero si se encuentra uno, sí, se puede detectar si es precanceroso o no.
ujú, ujú. Yeah, I know you guys mentioned polyps, and she talked a little bit about it. So tell us, what is that exactly?
Yeah, a polyp. Someone once described the polyp as like an interior skin tag to
Mm,
me, which
mm,
not
mhm,
great imagery,
mhm,
but that's kind of what it is. It's these polyps are these little like bundles of tissue
mm,
of your cells
mhm,
that can grow in the lining of your colon, and or your colon or rectum, and
mhm,
they so like where that hole of our colon is,
mhm,
where the stool
mhm,
moves through, they can kind of project out into that little
mm,
hole.
mhm,
So, like for those at home kits, like if you do the at home kit and you go to the, you have, if you go to the bathroom and you have some blood in your stool, that could be from your stool, like brushing up against the polyp,
mhm,
because they can kind of, they're fragile. They have blood vessels in them, and
mhm,
they can kind of
mhm,
like brush off the blood
mm,
vessels. They can kind of rupture, and that's how a little itty bitty bit of blood might end up in the
mm,
stool. Um, but yeah, there's just these little bundles of tissue.
mhm. But then you could tell whether they're cancerous or not.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's different types of polyps too. Not all polyps are the same.
Okay.
There's some polyps that are precancerous.
Mhm,
Not everyone who has polyps is going to have precancerous polyps.
mhm,
There's some polyps that are totally benign, so
mhm,
those are non-precancerous ones.
mhm,
There are some polyps that may be benign, but may be more likely to grow into cancer
mm,
than
mhm,
other kinds of polyps.
mhm.
So there's, a big old, if you've ever had a
Yeah.
colonoscopy, you'll get like a printout of all the different kinds of polyps that were
Mm,
found in your,
mhm.
if you had any polyps
Right.
that were found in your,
Yeah.
during your colonoscopy.
So more reason why you should have these tests done, because you never know what might be in there.
Yes, exactly. We can't see it.
Right, 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 right.
But,
So, hablaron y mencionaron varias veces los pólipos, ¿verdad?
Ujú.
Lo estoy diciendo bien.
Sí.
¿Qué es eso? ¿Qué exactamente es eso?
Sí. Un pólipo colorectal es una pequeña porción de tejido
Mm,
de su cuerpo que crece en el interior de su colon o
mm,
recto.
mhm,
Los pólipos pueden ser benignos,
mm,
no cancerosos, o pueden ser precancerosos, incluyendo cáncer.
Sí.
Pero no todos, depende el pólipo.
Sí, sí, por eso es importante hacerse el examen para saber qué clase de pólipos tienes.
Sí, es muy importante porque ahí es que se encuentra
Sí,
lo
sí,
temprano que
sí.
es y lo tratable.
Sí, claro.
También quería mencionar, por eso es muy importante. También si están por nuestro programa, nosotros los vamos a ayudar. Si no tienen un médico primario, buscar un local para que todos estos exámenes se puedan hacer,
Sí,
se
sí.
puedan detectar y que tengan un
Seguimiento.
seguimiento
Sí,
y un doctor primario para que
sí,
tengan todos estos
sí,
exámenes.
sí, claro,
Sí.
claro. So when should people start screening?
Yeah, for the average person, someone that's not high risk for colorectal cancer, they want to start screening at age 45. It used to be 50, but we are seeing younger and younger people being diagnosed with colorectal cancer more often. And there's a lot of theories as to why that is. Some people say the younger generations have poor diet, less exercise.
Yeah, yeah.
It's also could be in part due to the wider availability of screenings. So maybe I'm just saying maybe because it's still like kind of up in the air why younger people are being more diagnosed with this disease.
Yeah.
But it could be maybe in part due to people having more access to screenings. Where someone might have blood in their stool, but it might not be like colorectal cancer. It could be anything, but now they know because they did a kit.
Right.
Or also diet does play a role in colorectal cancer. We know like red meats, preserved meats, and lack of exercise does increase your risk for colorectal cancer. But in general, age 45 is the age to start with if you're average risk.
Yeah. So ¿a qué edad deberíamos de empezar a hacernos estos exámenes?
Nosotros decimos que a la edad de los 45 años, pero eso es si no tiene un riesgo. Y que lo que queremos decir por riesgo es que no haya una historia de familiares que hayan tenido cáncer del colon.
Sí.
Pero no, pensamos que la edad de 45 es la edad para empezar a tener sus exámenes. Y tengan en mente que pueden empezar con los kits en el hogar.
Sí, claro, claro. Ella estaba diciendo que antes era 50, pero lo bajaron ahora a 45 porque han visto más personas en esa edad.
Sí.
Ese quizás es por el hecho de que tienen los kits y lo pueden hacer más temprano, ¿verdad? Pero ella también habló un poquito de la dieta. So, háblenos un poquito de eso, because I do want to come back to you about the diet, but I'm going to ask her first to kind of tell us in Spanish, por qué la dieta también es importante, la dieta y el ejercicio.
El ejercicio, la dieta, todo eso es importante para nuestro físico, pero muy importante porque dicen que anteriormente quizás nosotros como los hispanos, y voy a hablar de los hispanos, no tenemos las mejores dietas y eso puede causar problemas con la digestión, problemas con esta educación de poderse tener estos exámenes. Pero creemos que lo mejor que hay es empezar temprano y saber educarnos más en lo que podemos comer, en lo que no podemos comer, cuáles comidas son mejores para nosotros y para nuestro cuerpo.
Sí, ella habló un poquito de la carne roja, de quizás cosas procesadas.
Sí, eso es verdad. Ustedes saben que nosotros nos encanta la carne, nos encanta el cerdo, las cosas fritas, y todo eso puede tener un impacto en nuestro cuerpo.
Sí. I was just, touching back on the base of food, because you mentioned red meats, processed food. What other things should we be aware of when it comes to diet and exercise?
Well, when talking about like our digestive health, we also really want to think about fiber.
Right.
I know that we've all heard it, but that we need more fiber. The average American diet is very low fiber. I spoke with a GI. I think she's a physician assistant She'd been in the business for around 20 some odd years of assisting with colonoscopies. And she said that she wishes everyone would have 20 to 30 grams of fiber a day. I think right now, last time I looked, I think the average American gets around 14 grams of fiber a day.
Wow.
And we can get fiber from so many things. Plantanos, they have a lot of fiber in them. We have, just our fruits, our veggies, our whole grains. Fiber is the big thing when we're thinking about our digestive health.
Ella está hablando de la fibra, ¿verdad? Que no comemos suficiente fibra. Aunque ella mencionó el plátano y dijo que el plátano es alto en fibra, pero hay muchos otros vegetales y frutas.
Mayormente frutas y los vegetales.
Sí.
Que debemos incluir más
claro.
nuestra dieta diaria.
Y ella está diciendo que habló con un asistente que ha ayudado por muchos años con personas con cáncer y dice que uno debe tomar de 20 a 30 gramos de fibra diario, pero nosotros estamos como eso de ahí de 13, basado en lo que comemos. Todavía nos falta mucho de fibra.
Falta mucho para eso, pero sí incluir mucho más la fruta y los vegetales en nuestra dieta.
Sí, y ella dijo también algunos granos que tienen fibra también.
Correcto.
Y nosotros nos gusta más las carnes, comemos muchas carnes, como usted dijo, mucha carne frita, mucha carne. Entonces, dejar un poquito las carnes y comer más vegetales y frutas, lo cual siempre estamos diciendo, ¿verdad? Es ideal, la dieta ideal para cualquier persona. I was just saying, the diet that you're mentioning is the diet that we all should be having regardless, right? Because it's just good for you. Less meats, more fruits, more vegetables type of things added to our diet. I know you both mentioned high risk. What makes you high risk? What are some of those things that bring you to the high risk?
Yeah, so someone is high risk for colorectal cancer if they have, and I think I heard you mention like a personal history of polyps or of colorectal cancer or of certain disease. If you have certain diseases that increase your risk, certain diseases, irritable bowel diseases, and some of the like Crohn's is one of them that does increase your risk greatly for colorectal cancer. And then really something that we all should be aware of is our family history of colorectal cancer. If you have a family, like a close family history of this disease, then you are at a higher risk for this disease. And that's someone like a sibling or a parent that has been diagnosed with colorectal cancer. And let's say you have a father that was diagnosed with colorectal cancer at, let's say, age 45. You actually want to start getting screened then with a colonoscopy. So those at-home kits aren't right for you. Those at-home kits are only for people who are average risk. You will want to start getting your colonoscopies at age 35, 10 years before your parent got diagnosed. And if you have a sibling that gets diagnosed, like I have a brother who's 45 and he's due for his colorectal cancer screening, and I've been bugging him.
Did you hear that, brother? She's been bugging you.
He's aware. He's very well aware of what I do. But if heaven forbid, if he gets diagnosed, because I know his diet, he eats a lot of beef jerky and he drinks, and alcohol is a factor too.
I thought so.
I know his diet, I know his habits, and I've been trying to get him screened, and it's that he's at higher risk, and he also doesn't know his family history. He doesn't know his dad, so we don't know if his dad had colorectal cancer or not. So it's really important.
Or somebody down the line.
It's really important for him to get screened. But you're higher risk if you have that close family history, and that does take talking with your family about it.
So la pregunta era, ¿qué hace que una persona esté en riesgo más alto?
Sí, como mencioné anterior, un riesgo, lo que queremos decir con eso es si tienes antecedentes familiares cercanos o antecedentes personales de cáncer colorectal o pólipos. Si tienes ciertas condiciones de salud como la enfermedad del intestino, necesitas entonces hacerte estos exámenes. Vamos a decir si tienes un padre que le encontraron cáncer a los 50,
Sí.
pues lo mejor que uno puede hacer es hacerse los exámenes empezando a los 40, 10
Ujú.
años
Antes.
antes de que esa persona le encontraron el
Sí,
cáncer para
claro.
estar seguro.
Sí.
Pero lo importante es saber la historia
Sí.
de tu familia.
Yeah. Y ahí ya no, los kits no serían favorables. Es mejor ahí le hacerse el examen completo, porque hay un
Correcto.
riesgo.
Cuando hay
Sí.
un riesgo,
Sí.
miramos a ese caso un poquito
Sí.
más diferente.
Sí.
Depende del caso y depende de la
Sí.
persona y la historia que nos están dando.
Sí,
Ujú.
sí. Y Lizer, una de las cosas que habíamos hablado anteriormente fue poder hablar de eso, de ese historial, ¿verdad? Porque no siempre sabemos, bueno, yo sé que mi tío se murió de qué
Ujú.
sé yo qué, pero no sé exactamente qué era lo que tenía.
Ujú.
Eso es bien importante saber, ¿verdad? De qué murieron personas, si murieron de alguna enfermedad, de qué murieron, si hay esos riesgos de cáncer o no.
Ujú.
Eso son cosas que tenemos que hablar con nuestros familiares, especialmente esos que son más cercanos a
Que
uno.
son más cercanos a uno
Sí.
y que sepan un poquito la historia. Y
Sí.
vamos a decir que te encuentres con alguien que no sepa la historia de tu
Ujú.
familia,
Ujú.
pues entonces lo mejor que sería hacer es hacerte este
Sí,
examen
exacto.
a la temprana edad
Dar.
con
Sí,
un kit casero.
exacto.
Es lo principal.
Sí,
Ujú.
claro, claro, claro. Um, what are symptoms? Do people have symptoms when they have colon cancer?
Early on, there's typically no symptoms.
Mm.
People aren't,
Which is scary,
yeah,
right? Because you could
Ujú.
have it and not know.
yeah. And that's an excuse we hear sometimes too.
Mhm.
Is like, if I have it, I just don't want to know.
Mm.
But so early on, though, there's typically no symptoms or,
Mhm.
or some things that you might not notice.
Mhm.
But symptoms, if you do have symptoms, they'll look something like having like recurring blood in the stool,
Mm.
having abdominal, like recurring abdominal pain, that pain that doesn't go away. Feeling, after you go to the bathroom, after you go number two,
Mhm.
feeling like you can't fully go to the bathroom, like having that feeling like
You
you
still
still
want
have,
to.
yeah, or being having a blockage,
Mm.
that can, sometimes
Mm.
it could be a number of things, but
Mhm.
these could be symptoms for colorectal
which
cancer.
is very similar when you're constipated. So, if you're constantly constipated or you're thinking that that could also be a signal, right? That, well, maybe I should have this test done, even if
Mm-hmm.
it's the home one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just to be sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and that could also be something where maybe you should maybe you should have a little more fiber in your
Yeah,
diet.
right, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
And drink a little more water.
Water,
But yeah,
yeah.
but do be mindful of if you have issues going to the bathroom
Mhm.
and it doesn't go away.
Mm.
Talk with your doctor
Mhm.
to see which option's best for you.
Yeah, yeah. So, ¿hay síntomas cuando una persona tiene el cáncer o no?
A veces no hay síntomas,
Ujú.
¿ok? Ahí es que uno puede también, debe de ver si te estás encontrando sangre
Mm.
cuando vas al baño,
Ujú.
si hay un cambio que es muy diferente
Ujú.
con, los intestinos
Ujú.
o dolor abnormal,
Ujú.
que es un dolor que no se te va.
Ujú.
Esas son las cosas principales,
Sí,
pero a veces no.
sí,
Por
sí,
eso otra vez vamos a empezar con estos home kits
sí,
para ver si hay algo que se puede
sí,
detectar,
sí,
pero a veces no hay
sí.
estos síntomas.
Y ella también habló de un poquito de que vas y sientes como que no has terminado, como que todavía tienes que ir, pero no puedes ir. Que algunas
Correcto.
veces las personas se lo echan a, ay, estoy estreñido.
Ajá.
Pero pueda que no sea que estás
Pueda que no
estreñido.
sea.
So, es bueno tener uno de esos kits para entonces probar a ver qué es lo que
A
está
ver si
pasando.
hay algo abnormal.
Sí, sí, sí.
A veces es como decimos anteriormente, la dieta.
Sí, falta de fibra.
Falta de
sí,
fibra,
sí.
falta de vegetales o
Mm.
frutas.
Ujú.
Pero
Agua, ella dijo
agua,
beber
bastante
sí.
agua, pero si
Sí.
están encontrando que ven algo diferente, hablen
Sí,
con su doctor a ver si hay algo que se pueda examinar un
claro,
poquito más.
claro, claro,
Ujú.
claro. So, what if a person doesn't have? I know you guys talked about your program and people not having insurance and those type of things. What exactly do you offer for those folks?
Yeah, so We pay for breast cancer screenings, things like mammograms, MRIs, biopsies, clinical breast exams, for people who are mainly uninsured, 40 and older. If someone's symptomatic for breast cancer and they don't have health insurance, they can't afford the diagnostic screening. They usually, I think, speak with Lizette. And we get younger people, and we get men too that have issues. For cervical cancer, we do breast cancer screenings. We pay for those. We pay for cervical cancer screenings for people that don't have health insurance, 40 and older. And also like colposcopies, like diagnostic, like if people need more workup, we're not going to just pay for the screening and say, oh, sorry, you're done, like you have to cover the rest. We cover it leading up to a potential diagnosis. And then for colorectal cancer, I call our first line of defense, where we send out a kit to someone who's 45 or older that doesn't have health insurance. As long as they're not symptomatic and as long as they're not high risk, we'll just mail them a kit. They complete the kit, they mail it back to the lab, and then we follow up with that patient to let them know their screening results and if they do need additional care, because we're going to follow that. Well, I say we, Lizette's going to follow that patient through the whole ordeal. Process is a nicer way to say it. And so, but we also will pay for colorectal cancer screenings, like diagnostic colonoscopies, and for like those polyps being, the lab workup for the polyps. And Lizette can probably talk a little bit more about all of those little nitty gritty things that we pay for. But really, people call our program and we enroll them right over the phone. We help get them set up for their screenings. First of all, we make sure they have a doctor. That's really, really number one. If they don't have a doctor, we get them set up with a doctor if they don't have health insurance. And then we start them with their screenings. But they call us, we get them enrolled, we pay for the screenings, and then we're going to check in with them. Usually, if a year later, I don't do the recalls, maybe every 10 months or so, we're going to check in with the patients and see, do you still need us? How are you feeling? We're just going to make sure that we don't abandon anyone.
Nice. So la pregunta era si una persona no tiene seguro médico, ¿cómo ustedes los ayudan?
Nosotros los ayudamos principalmente con exámenes de los senos, exámenes clínicos, diagnósticos si son necesarios, cervical y colonoscopías. Esto para las personas de 40 y mayor de 40, pero no quiere decir que si un caso viene, porque lo hemos visto, hemos tenido unos cuantos casos con personas menores de esta edad que la hemos podido ayudar. Principalmente queremos saber si tienen un doctor primario. Si no tienen su doctor primario, lo ayudamos a establecer ese cuidado con un doctor para empezar el proceso con estos exámenes. Pagamos todos los exámenes que tengan que ver con senos, cervical y colon. Seguimos esos casos hasta final, que quiere decir lo que queremos es lo mejor, que sea todo negativo, pero vamos a decir si encuentran algo, también ayudamos
con ese proceso.
Mayormente esos casos me llegan a donde mí. Estoy en contacto con esos clientes unas cuantas veces para estar seguros que están atendiendo a sus citas, que están haciendo bien y cuál es el próximo paso para ellos. Pero principalmente enrolamos la persona enseguida que nos llaman. Tenemos un consentimiento que ellos firman para poder seguir el proceso con ellos.
Perfecto. And how do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, they just give us a call at 585-224-3070, and we'll pick up the phone usually Monday through Friday,
Okay.
8 to 4:30. We're
Mhm.
closed for lunch.
Mhm. Mhm.
And they just really give us a call. We're gonna assess their eligibility over the phone.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and and once we assess their eligibility, see if they're uninsured, they're
Yeah.
age eligible,
Right.
we're going to enroll them right over the phone. It
Mhm.
takes 10-15 minutes,
Yeah.
very quick.
Can you repeat the number again?
Yeah, it's 585-224-3070.
Okay.
They just call us and it's very quick. We get them set up and yeah.
Perfect. So, ¿a dónde pueden llamar para servicio?
Sí, pueden llamar al 585-224-3070. El
Ujú.
proceso es bien rápido,
Ujú.
más o menos ni 10 minutos para enrolar. Si no, quiero decir esto, nuestro público hispano,
Ujú.
si quieren dejar un mensaje en español, por favor, déjenlo en español.
Sí.
Van a recibir su llamada para atrás.
Ujú.
Lo voy a llamar y enrolarlo
Sí.
con ellos. Pueden dejarme cualquier pregunta, pero el número es 585-224-3070.
Y están ahí de lunes a
De
viernes
lunes
de
a
8
viernes de 8 a 4 y
4
media.
y están cerrados a la hora de almuerzo.
Ahora de almuerzo,
Sí,
sí.
pero durante las otras horas pueden llamar.
Pueden llamar a cualquier
Y te
momento.
tienen a ti ahí, Lisette,
Sí,
para hablar con
sí.
personas, con alguien en español, lo cual
Sí.
es bien importante y me alegro de que puedas darle ese servicio a nuestra comunidad.
Oh, gracias a
Yeah.
ustedes por esta
Sí,
oportunidad
sí.
que nos están dando hoy.
Sí, claro, claro. Well, thank you both for being here with us today. I like to end the show by asking if there's a phrase or a saying that you grew up with that still resonates with you today. And I don't know if you both have one.
I shared mine earlier with you. Mine was essentially stay out of trouble and don't get caught.
Don't get caught. Manténgase fuera del problema y que no los cojan con la mano en la masa, como dice uno en español. ¿Y tú, Lice, tienes uno?
Yo creo que trabajar honestamente y ser humilde.
Yeah, she says, work honestly, work hard, and be an honest person. Muy bien. Yeah. Well, thank you both for being here with us today. We really appreciate it. Thank you for bringing this. Make sure that if you know of anyone that's within those ages or that already have had some risk or are at high risk or have a history, make sure you tell them go get your screening done. If you're at high risk, go get a full one. But if you're not, make sure to ask for a kit. And I know Ibero had a whole bunch of them that we were giving out as well. So you could probably find them in just about anywhere if you ask. So please ask, call us, and let us know if you need one. And we'll connect people with you guys or other places in the community that we know that are giving out the kits. And it's so important for people to do that. So March is the month of awareness. So make sure you're telling your friends and families about this. Gracias a todos por acompañarnos en esta mañana. Lo esperamos nuevamente el próximo sábado de 10 a 11 de la mañana en Poder 97.1 FM, la única estación radial latina con dueños y operados por latinos, por la comunidad, para la comunidad. Esto ha sido su hora informativa, trayendo la información importante que nos inspira a una mejor calidad de vida. Que pasen una linda semana. Hasta la próxima, mi gente.